I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Joaquin Lopez, who has woven an intriguing narrative in his novel, Exiled, Book One of the God Stone Trilogy, where readers follow the resilient protagonist Jack, a young boy propelled by promises and driven by destiny, navigating a hostile world where unknowingly under the watchful eyes of the gods. We are delighted to have Joaquin join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Joaquin, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
This is quite a tale you have told, and this is book one, presumably of three books because it's a trilogy. Let's start out by talking about book one, where you got the idea for it. Had this been mulling around in your brain for a lot of years or something?
Actually, it had. When I was a college student, I did all of this studying and all. And when I finished, I had all this extra time. And so I started reading this genre. And after several years of reading the genre, I thought to myself, well, I can do this myself. So I started working on the ideas and jotting down notes of everything that I had in mind. And then I sat down and started putting the story together.
It's a great story. Let's give the folks at home an overview. Tell them the basics of the story.
Okay. The story is about a young boy who grows up in the palace. His mother is one of the queen's handmaids, and he and the princess are of the same age, and they're good friends. And so the story is about them and their relationship, and and everything that happens. There's a war going on. The kingdom is losing the war, and so they get separated by fate. And then he makes a promise to the princess that he won't rest until she is sitting on the throne. And so the rest of the story takes place over the next several years. When the book starts, the young boy is 8 years old. When it finishes, he's 25. And so everything that he has to go through to fulfill his promise to the princess.
Oh, it's wonderful. You have really created an epic adventure with the story of Jack and the princess and this world you've created as well. It's fun being immersed in that world when you're reading it. It really feels real to you. You feel like you're transported back into time as well. Are all three books complete at this point?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And is only one available right now, or are all three available?
Actually, all three are now available.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So how long did it take you to write these three volumes?
Well, the first book was published in 2003. The first book was, and that see, I work full time at a bank, and so I do my writing on weekends and after work in the evening. So it took probably a year and a half to 2 years to write the first one. Then it took me a long time to just relax and recover and think about how I wanted to continue the story, and many different notes, and then scratching out, no, that doesn't sound good. And so it took me several years before I published the second book that is entitled Redemption. And after that, it probably took me again another year and a half of writing to get that one completed. But as soon as I published that, I went ahead and started working on the third. So it didn't take as long to get the third one done. So.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it's a great story. Have you envisioned these books as a TV series or a series of movies, perhaps? I could see it being like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter or something,
Yes, of course. I think that's every writer's dream, is to have something like that happen. And I mean, of course, I have a biased opinion, but I think it would make a great TV series and or movies.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it would be a fascinating world that Hollywood could create. I see it as a series of films rather than a series because I don't want to see it in 50-minute installments. I'd want to see it in 2.5 hour installments. And I think it'd be quite a world. So, Hollywood, if you're listening, these books, I should say, are awesome. So consider making Joaquin's books into a series of films. The influence of God is very important in your series. In fact, it's a trilogy, which of course is kind of like a trinity. Tell us a little bit about the role that faith and divine influence plays in your writing.
Well, I myself am a Christian, and I believe in God, and so I wanted to put some of that into the storyline, and that's why I created the gods and placed his faith in God. So it was a big part of the overall story, and it influenced my complete storyline as a result of my faith.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about the Crystal Desert and the Rumalian Plains that are described in your book.
Yes, well, the desert is, I mean, it's a desert like any other desert. It's extremely hot, and it was there, and because of the desert, the people on either side of the desert don't realize that the other side exists.
Mhm.
And so that's why when he finally manages to survive, he doesn't know where he's at, and the people don't know that find him don't know where to place him or how to place him or what to think of him, of Jack. And so it's a big deal for him to have made it across the desert, and
Yeah.
that also presents a problem for him to fulfill his promise. Is how to get back across without having to do all that suffering again.
Exactly. And that's kind of what makes this an epic, that he's got this arduous journey that he has to fulfill in order to keep the promises that he made. Jack witnesses the murder of the king and the royal court. Tell us a little bit about that. And it drives him into exile.
Correct. As a result of the war, as typical when any war ends, the conqueror gets the spoils, and so the conquerors don't want to have any remnants left of the existing regime, so they gather them up in a room, and Jack happens to be in the room, and he's hiding, and he witnesses the king and the queen and the royal court all get murdered by the conquerors, and obviously this doesn't sit well with him, and he runs and hides, and then when the conquering queen asks the palace staff, if you want to live, bow down before me, Jack refuses to do that, and that ends up what gets him exiled.
Mm. Hence the name of the book, Exiled, book one of the God Stone Trilogy. It's a wonderful read. You will be enthralled as you are immersed in the world that is inhabited by Jack and the princess and other memorable characters, as well as he goes on an arduous journey to fulfill a promise unknowingly the entire time under the watchful eyes of the gods. It is an epic tale. It is one you will love. And before we leave us today, Joaquin, is there something you'd like the folks to know about the books?
Well, like I said, I have a biased opinion, but I agree with you. I think it is a great story, and I consider myself just to be a storyteller, and I just would appreciate everyone's support on the books.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great to support independent voices, independent writers like Joaquin, who has taken a lot of time, has invested a lot of money in bringing these books to life. And it's wonderful. It's unique. It's something you won't necessarily find as the first choice on Amazon. So go a little further, search for this book, Exiled, book one of the God Stone Trilogy by Joaquin Lopez. You'll be glad you did. Joaquin, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.